Oh hi! Welcome to Aquata Zoo, where we like to nerd out over all things zoo and aquarium related. I'm l.semple, and today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about managing emotions. What I'm talking about here is mainly just in the workplace. I mean, it helps if you also manage your emotions effectively in other contexts, but this is mainly geared towards maintaining your professionalism, because sometimes it's really hard to do. I will admit, I am not naturally a particularly emotional person myself. I don't react terribly emotionally most of the time. I'm not perfect. I'm not saying that that's the way to do it. It's just my logic typically overrides my emotion. So I'm just throwing that out there. So I'm speaking to you as a generally non-emotional person. I say that, but as a youth, I was prone to pretty angry fits. So I joke now that really the only emotions that you'll see out of me on a regular basis, as far as, my work goes, is excitement. And fortunately, that's the majority. Frustration, that occasionally happens, and anger, which you don't see anger too much. In my younger days, in my early Aquarius years, I let my anger show a lot more, and please learn from the mistakes that I made. It's not the way to go. And that's what I'm kind of talking about now. I kind of wish that somebody would have talked to me about professionalism. I guess I learned some from school and parents and things, but like until you're in it, you don't really realize what that means and how it can really impact your career. So let's just talk about it today. So let's say that you're working, doing your thing, getting your work done, doing a good job, and somebody comes along and claims the work that you have done. That is really frustrating. I've had it happen. It's demoralizing and, I don't know, kind of a betrayal. So, there's a lot of emotions that can be stirred from that, right? You can be angry, you could be frustrated, you could be sad because a coworker just did that to you, right? How do you react though? What is your behavior? That's what we're talking about here. I have seen in my time people react very differently. I've seen some people shut down and kind of cower. I've seen some people yell. I've seen some people even kind of get a little violent and want to punch something, right? And while I haven't seen anybody full on punch a coworker, I have seen, keys thrown, shirts thrown, whatever's available, just punching walls and stuff. Like it's not good, right? Those are the kinds of reactions that you really should not be doing in front of your coworkers. In this scenario, I would hope that you could take a breath and look at it, right? So what has happened is, yes, you were wrong. Yes, you were completely valid in having the feelings that you do about it. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's time to flip the table or punch someone in the nose, right? It is time to take a breath and understand what's going on here. You've got a situation where somebody hurt you and that was wrong. You have every right to confront them and talk about it. You have the ability to go for a walk, take some time, maybe even take the rest of your day as a mental health day. Like those are options for you. What you need to understand though is that this person did something. They might have had intentions. You don't really know. The only person who knows what their intentions are is that person, right? So someone did something to you, but you got mad about it all by yourself, right? So they didn't make you mad. You have allowed yourself to get mad. That's the differentiation that I'm making here. And I know that it's going to sound kind of like I'm telling you to bottle up your feelings, which I am definitely not. Do not do that. That is not healthy either. There's like a fine line here. If you're going to be mad, that's fine. Take a breath and consider how your behavior in the workplace is going to impact you in the future. Then you can also understand that that person, while you feel they may have wronged you and they may have done something directly against you, you may assume that they have some sort of intent behind it, but I would advise against that because you don't know their intent, only they do. But you have chosen to get mad about this. And I know it feels different because you maybe in this case you might not have developed any kind of emotion management here. I'm 100% guilty of this. I used to let anger just like overtake me. If you've ever heard of people like going blackout angry, you know, that's what I'm talking about. Like they just let the emotion take over. And I have been there. I don't think I've done anything violent, but I've really let my temper get the best of me. And I've seen other people around me in the workplace let their tempers get the best of them, and they look like an absolute fool. It's ridiculous. And you don't realize it when it's you. You feel justified. You feel wrathful, angry, all of the words, right? And it doesn't seem like it's a bad choice in the moment. You've kind of lost control. You don't know what to do, so you just kind of lash out. Maybe that's yelling. Maybe that's, stomping around. Maybe it's throwing yourself on the floor and having a good old-fashioned kid tantrum. I don't know. And so you've put yourself in this emotional place, and it is very possible that that's going to hurt you in the long run. Your coworkers are seeing that. They're whispering about it. Like, as much as we don't love gossip in the workplace, like, it happens. And so you look very immature and not very credible, not very trustworthy, not very stable in the eyes of your coworkers, and it could really affect you in the future. Baby Aquarius to me did not realize this, and I guess I let my anger over various different things bubble out in just, I guess, more gossipy ways. Like, I just was so mad that I would talk to anybody who would listen and just vent. Not necessarily about anybody in particular, just about my frustrations, and it just came across as super immature. It did not do me any favors. And at that facility where I was working, I ended up having to leave because I was not about to move up and, get myself, at the time I was kind of part-time, so I was not about to land myself a full-time job there because I, understandably so, did not display the emotional maturity that I needed to maintain my cool when things got hard. I would just let my anger take over. And so I became very bitter and angry. And I know that now. I can see it. I understand how it affected my future there. And I understand the annoyance of the coworkers that were around me. Like, I didn't punch anything, but I just let the anger take over my entire workday. You know what I mean? So I was just venting a lot and wasting a lot of time complaining. And, I would still get my work done, but was it as good as it possibly could be? Probably not. Was I as willing to go the extra mile to do more? Definitely not. It just hurt my career at that particular facility. And that's really too bad because it's a good facility and I could see myself still being there now if I'd played my cards better, if I had more control, if I'd matured faster. And this is like a thing that happened ever since I was a kid. I had issues with anger and it would show itself in various different ways. And I didn't realize until after I left that facility that I needed to get it under control. And what really convinced me was working with other people who also had no control in their anger, and I did not want to be that person. I saw how if I'd piled 20 more years on myself in the same field and doing the same type of work, working with the same type of people and having this stuff happen, how bad I would be at that point if I didn't get a handle on my anger, and just how I'd stunt my own career. So that's why I'm telling you and explaining that you should be better than me and just consider taking a breath, being more mature about your responses to things, because I want you to progress in your career faster than I did. Be better than me. Learn from my mistakes so you don't have to. When somebody wrongs you or does something that makes you frustrated or angry or honestly even super, super excited, like find a little middle ground there. Like just even it out some for the sake of your career, for the sake of those around you, just to remain professional, right? Even if you are super bubbly and freaking out excited over something, that also shows a little bit of emotional immaturity. And so just taming it down just a hair, take a breath, take a moment, gather your thoughts, gather your feelings, and then understand how your response, your behaviors are going to impact your work, the people around you, and is this way that I'm about to lose control going to benefit me in any way in the future? More than likely, if you're about to lose yourself to your emotion, whether it's good or bad, it's probably not going to help you that much as a professional. And I do not want you to think that I'm telling you to bottle up your feelings and just bury them. That's not what I mean, because that's really unhealthy too. I just want you to just figure out a way that works for you. For me, it's kind of taking a breath and possibly walking away for a minute. I usually just need a second to gather my thoughts and just be away from whatever is happening for just a second, so I can remind myself to keep cool, keep calm, and be somebody who is a role model for how to not get overly frustrated, not get overly angry, not get overly excited. Like, yes, I don't want you to not be excited. I don't want you to not voice your frustrations if you're feeling it. I'm just saying in those instances where it's getting really, really emotional and you're about to get taken over by it, or you're about to lose control over it, don't. Take a minute, do what you need to do to maintain your cool. Because let's say you're doing that, and let's say you're just frustrated and you kick a trash can in your frustration over what's happening because it's not going the way you planned, whatever. You're doing that in front of coworkers and maybe a supervisor. Doesn't even have to be your supervisor, but it's going to get back to your supervisor somehow that, this person just took their frustration out on a trash can, and I didn't think that was very good. I didn't think that was very funny. It did not set a good example for the other younger, newer people in the room, If your boss then hears about it and kind of files that away, not necessarily that they're going to hold it over your head or write it in your permanent record or anything like that, but when it comes to who do we want to lead this project, who do we want to be a part of this team, and discussions that could further your career, you're slightly less likely to be one of the people whose name comes to top of mind in this instance, just because you're also kind of garnering a reputation for not being in good control of your emotions. And not that that's the end of the world. We all have our moments, and I'm 100% guilty of it. I also have my moments. But even I guess after you've learned how to maintain better control, you still have your moments, because things get out of hand, or things are hitting you unexpectedly, or perhaps the stress is just piling up because of life on top of work, on top of your relationships, all that, there's a breaking point for everybody. I'm not going to say that there's not. So when we're thinking about who is going to lead the team or be a part of the new project or something like that, your boss is probably going to think, well, maybe we get somebody else who has a little bit more emotional maturity. So even if they're not consciously making that choice based on your emotional reactions to things, it's very likely that it could be filed away somewhere in the back of their mind, right? They have a feeling that so-and-so might be a better choice than you, just because they understand how to work under stress. They know how to handle that pressure. And you have shown in the past, right or not, that you did not maintain emotional control. That's gonna hurt your chances a little bit. It's not the end of the world, mind you. If you get passed over for an opportunity, it is not the end of the world. You'll probably have another one that comes. But just be aware of when that happens, maybe repeatedly, that there might be something wrong, that somebody may have a bad view of you, or that you may have some work to do on yourself, like, or, maybe the institution's not for you. That's how I recognized it in my institution. I was really mad. I was venting all the time. My coworkers were probably sick of me. And then I was missing opportunities. And it happened again and again. And I realized I'm not going to move up here. I got to go. I got to find something else because I messed up my situation here. And when that happens, it is an absolute bummer, but it is not the end of the world. There will be more jobs. There will be more institutions. There will be other things that you can do that will take the place of this. Like, don't let it get you completely in a bind, right? It's okay. It's okay. Something else is going to come along. So just recognize when it's happening. I sometimes have a problem with being too stubborn and wanting to wait it out and wanting to fix it. And I have to get to the point where I realize I can't fix it, and then I can't move on. Like, I have to get out because I'm not going to move up. The institution and I are not meshing anymore. They have this view of me. I can't seem to break it. And that's okay. It's a bummer, but it is okay. So far, if I've reached that point with my institution, the next one is a nice clean start and things go much smoother because I've learned a lot. I don't have that reputation for being an anger ball. So I'm just saying, take a breath, hold it, maybe take a walk. Don't do anything super rash. Don't do anything excessive. Don't let your emotions blindly take over, right? Don't lose control to your emotions. If you are an emotional type, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but just understand, especially if you're working with other people who are not like that, they might not understand what you're going through. So if something upsets you and you burst into tears, or something, frustrates you and you want to punch a wall, like all of those reactions that are really driven by emotion, try to tamp those down just a little bit to get you through your day and remain professional. What would a professional do? If that's what you have to ask yourself, then please do that. Like, what would my mentor do? What would a super professional do? What should I do? What kind of reaction would I hope that my boss would do? That maybe you need to ask yourself those kinds of questions to get to the point where you're understanding what is and isn't professional, what you should and shouldn't do as far as letting your emotions out, right? They make rage rooms where you can just like go in and break a bunch of stuff and get all of your rage out of you in a way that does not hurt anybody, and it is not like a problem. Like, there are ways to do that. You can meditate to kind of calm yourself. There's options available to you depending on what you respond well to, depending on what you like, depending on the emotional outburst that's ready to happen within you. I used a lot of hot yoga personally. It is really great. You feel awesome afterwards, but it is a hot, sweaty mess while you're in the middle of it. But it's very cathartic, and it kept me very calm for a very long time. So maybe you need to do something physical. Get in a run, a walk, do some yoga, do some breathing exercises, whatever you need to do. There's lots of different ways to calm your body and thus calm your mind. And so I would just think about those things well before, have like a game plan in mind before you get to the point where you're about to lose it because you're so mad, or you're so frustrated, or you're so sad and you're going to burst into tears, right? All of that stuff, when it happens, even though it happens to everybody, it's tough to maintain your professionalism when that kind of stuff happens, because I guess as professionals, we kind of want to show that we can maintain our cool. Even when things are absolutely insane, maintain your cool. That's how you stay professional. That's how you show that you can handle it and that you're not going to let the emotions get the better of you. Of course, if things are getting out of hand and you feel like you're really like in some trauma, please see a professional. Like, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a counselor, something, your employee assistance program if you have one, like anybody who is a professional at that sort of thing. I am not. So even though I'm kind of speaking about handling your emotions and breathing exercises and all this stuff, this is just things that I've learned over the years that have hurt me in the past as a professional, that I want everybody else to learn from so they don't have to do it themselves. I don't want you to have to go through that, because it was a drawn out experience that I hate to admit took me way longer to figure out than I would have wanted. But it's really important that for the sake of my coworkers, that I stay calm even when things are super duper frustrating. And I want to be really angry. I've definitely gotten control of my anger, thankfully. So I don't usually let that show when I'm at work too much. It's rare. So there's that at least. I don't look like a lunatic because I've lost control due to anger. I have cried on occasion, and that's not the end of the world. But if you do it often, or if you can't even communicate because you're crying too hard, like that's tough to deal with. I've dealt with a lot of people who read into things that other people are doing, and they just want to control them so badly that they burst into tears because they can't handle what's happening. They don't have control, and therefore they get frustrated, or they get angry, or they get sad, and they just burst into tears. And that's really hard to watch, because you want to help them, but at the same time, they have to be the ones to help themselves. If that makes sense. Like, yes, somebody did something that you don't agree with and you're mad about how they went about it. It's not the way that you would have went about it, but you can't control them. They didn't do it just to spite you. You can't assume that they did. Well, I guess you can assume that they did, but in deep down, you don't know that they did. The only person who knows is them. And so then they just kind of burst into tears and can't describe what's happening. They're so mad. They're so frustrated. They're so upset, that they can't vocalize what's going on. So, when I'm dealing with that, there's only so much I can do. I can hand you a box of tissues and wait it out. I'm happy to listen. But a lot of times when I've seen people let their emotions get a hold of them like that, it's too late. They gotta go home. Like, they can't recover from that one in a quick manner, and it affects the rest of the day if they don't go home. Because they're just mad, and everything gets worse from there. Like, they keep getting madder. And so it's like, okay, I understand that you feel wronged. I understand that you feel sad or angry or whatever emotions are coming up, but please do not let them take over. Try to funnel that into something productive, right? Take a walk, take a breath, go home if you need to. I understand, and try to get it together so you're not bawling in the corner all day long. And not to say that people are not allowed to cry at work. It's understandable that stuff happens and people get frustrated or sad and they cry at work, and I understand that. I have done it. I'm not saying that I haven't, but doing that on a regular basis is not doing you any favors. It's just not. I wish I could say that it's not a problem, but it kind of can be. It can affect your progression in your career if you cannot get a handle on that. Just because it looks like you can't handle stress, it looks like you can't handle pressure. Why are we going to put somebody in the next position up who can't handle pressure and stress? Because if you're going to cry your eyes out every single time you get upset, like, it just looks a certain way. I'm not saying you're a bad person, that you're not capable of doing the work or anything like that. There's just a perception there. Doubly so if you're a woman. I would love to say that there's no sexism in work, but if you find yourself flying off the handle in an emotional episode, you are going to face harsher judgment as a woman than you will as a man, typically. And that's just because women are viewed often as the more emotionally driven gender, right? Like, it's just how it is. It's how it's been. Even if it's not true, which it's not. It's not true. But that has been a stereotype for decades, ages upon ages, that women can't handle the workplace because they're too emotional. And true or not, we are judged harsher because of that stereotype. And, that's just how stereotypes work. That's how biases work. It's not true, but you're kind of reinforcing it right now, right? So, especially if you're a woman, understand, or, female presenting, whatever. If you are going to have an emotional outburst at work, understand how that affects your career in the long run. And I'm not saying that every time you have a point where your emotions have gotten the better of you, that it's unforgivable, and that you have to leave your workplace. You have to go find a new job. No, that's not what I'm saying. I just want you to understand that there is an impact if you do this repeatedly. If you keep showing that you're not going to be good at handling stress or pressure or a high workload or a stressful situation, right? If you keep buckling under that, or you keep lashing out when people make you mad, or you feel that you've been wronged, that shows that you're not emotionally mature and that you're probably not the best candidate when new opportunities come along that could benefit you in your career. It's not fun. I wish it weren't this way. But there are repercussions to this kind of stuff. And so if you can figure out a way before you get to the point where you're getting emotional, where you're getting super angry, super frustrated, super sad, super excited, all of the things, before you get to that point, try a couple of ways to calm yourself down. If that's doing some breathing exercises and taking a minute, counting to 10 a few times and just chilling out. If it's taking a walk around the building or something like that. If it's doing some physical activity of some sort, going for a quick run. If it's actually leaving the premises and ending your day early. Do what you need to do. If you need to ask yourself some questions to get there, like what would I want to see in my supervisor in this sort of scenario, and then do that. Like, there are ways you can prepare yourself and kind of be ready for that emotional outburst to get that under control. So think about those methods well before the emotional stuff starts piling on and you start to get overwhelmed by it, so that it's ready to go by the time you need it. For me, I start doing some breathing exercises because it does calm me down. It's physically calms my body and therefore clears my mind a little bit. And if it's really bad, I'm going to go for a walk. If it's absolutely overwhelming and I'm about to embarrass myself, I will leave. And fortunately, I'm in a workplace where that is understandable and people are like, okay, you go do that because we don't want you to, lose your mind here, right? So hopefully you're in a workplace where that's okay and that you are okay to take a mental health hour or what have you, because you might need it. And if that's what you need in order to save yourself from completely going out of control, then do what you need to do. Just understand what you're doing, why you're doing it, and keep your cool. If you can. It takes practice. It took me a long time to figure this out. Way longer than I care to admit, I'll be honest with you. But I'm in a much better place now. I can recognize in myself, just from, life, when I'm starting to decline and when things are about to go bad, right? So I'm in a much better place. I hope that you are too. Think about this stuff ahead of time before you get to that point where you think your emotions are about to take over, because it could affect your career and I don't want it to. I want you to have a happy, healthy, productive career that you've always dreamed of. And this is one way to help you get there. Okay, if you have any questions about that or any other leadership or management things or zoo and aquarium stuff, you can write it up in an email and send it to me at aquatazoo@gmail.com. If you're enjoying the show, don't forget you can follow or subscribe on your podcast player of choice. That way you'll get all of that sweet, sweet content as soon as it releases. If you'd like to support the podcast directly, you can find me at patreon.com/aquatazoo. And if you're looking to take a vacation and you don't know where to start, I happen to be a personal vacation advisor with Magical Vacation Planner, and I would love to help you out. It does not cost you anything extra. The links are in the show notes. Okay, thanks for listening. I heart your faces. Okay, bye.